Hi you guys. If you own a serger, have you only been using it to finish off the raw edges of your garments like I used to do? If you are missing out. I'm telling you, seriously, you can sew full garments using a serger, including hemming. If you don't have a serger because you've been too intimidated by them, I'm going to invite you to follow along today and reconsider, because it really is simple. We're going to sew a very basic t-shirt, the t-shirt that I'm wearing right now, and I'm going to take you through it step by step in very great detail. So keep watching, because I think you're going to like this. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here for the very first time, thank you for stopping by to visit me today. I'm Anita with Anita by Design, and I create step-by-step, very detailed tutorials and sew-alongs for beginners. I love to sew, and it is my passion to teach the basics of garment construction to beginners. I hope you will like what you see here today, and if you do, I invite you to subscribe to my channel, and after you subscribe, make sure you hit the little bell to the right of the subscribe button so that you will receive notifications when new videos are uploaded to my channel. Today we're going to be sewing a t-shirt on the serger, and we're going to be using New Look 6458. If you followed along with my beginner's sewing course, then you will be familiar with this, because we use this pattern to make a t-shirt and a maxi skirt. And that brings me to this. If you have never sewn anything before, if you are brand new to sewing and you're following along with this sew along to learn how to sew on a serger, I'm going to suggest that you go and watch the videos from my beginner's sewing course first and learn how to sew, learn the basics of sewing before you come here, because I will not be teaching you the basics. I'll just be showing you how to sew on a serger, and this tutorial assumes that you already know how to sew. So we'll be using New Look 6458. I'll put a link in the bottom in the description box so that you can purchase your pattern if you don't have a local fabric store. And for your fabric, you can just purchase any kind of t-shirt fabric, any type of knit fabric that you want to use for your t-shirt. The fabric I'm wearing is very special. It's a gift from Mallory and Zeddy of sewhere.com. That's their website. They also have a podcast called Sewing Out Loud, and after each episode on their podcast, they sign off by saying, "So long, so happy," and that's what the t-shirt says. So last year at the Common Threads event, Mallory and Zeddy gave these panels, this fabric panel, to all of the attendees. And I'm so happy I was there, because I got a panel and this is what I did with it. So I will include a link in the description box below for this fabric if you're interested in purchasing this to make your t-shirt. And the only other thing you will need is thread. I chose a coordinating color, and I'm going to suggest you do the same thing, because we're going to be sewing in a blind hem with the serger, and you want your thread to blend in with the color of your fabric. So make sure you choose a color that's as close to the color of your fabric as possible. After you have purchased all of your supplies, we are ready, so let's get started. We only need 4 pieces to complete the garment: 1 front, 1 back, 2 sleeves, and 1 neckband. Before we start sewing the t-shirt, I want to show you how I find the seam allowance on the Vibrant. Here I've placed a mark on the fabric 5/8 of an inch in from the edge of the fabric. So I used my seam gauge and measured in 5/8 of an inch, and then just placed that mark. Then I'm going to take the fabric and place it onto the working table, and I'm lining that mark up with the hole, the little opening at the edge of the presser foot, because that's where the left needle lines up, and I'm sewing with the left needle. So after I have found that, then I make sure this guide is pressed up against that edge. So if the guide were out here, I would just push it in to make sure that it's pressed up against the edge of the fabric. And then when I remove it, then that tells me that for a 5/8 inch seam allowance, this guide needs to be at the second mark, and that's along the edge of the working table where the fabric cutter will start cutting the fabric off. So that's how you find the seam allowance. Okay, grab your shirt front and back. We're going to sew the shoulder seams together. I have done one here for you to show you what it would look like. Now, to sew the shoulder seams together, you're going to take the front and back at the shoulder seam, match up the notches evenly. If you need it for control, you can insert pins to keep the fabric together as you start to sew. I'm not going to use pins, I'm just going to put the fabric here. Making sure that your edges are lined up evenly. And then go ahead and sew. And there we have our other shoulder seam sewn together. Press the seam toward the back of the shirt. Then we're going to come back and attach the neckband. But before we do that, let's go ahead and sew the neckband together. This is the neckband, and we're going to fold it in half. And on the short end, we're going to line up the raw edges, and we're going to sew the ends together. Take the neckband to the pressing station with you when you take your shirt, and you're going to press the seam flat to one side. After you have done that, take your band and fold it in half with the wrong sides facing each other, and you're going to press this flat all the way around, and then come back here and we will attach the neckband to the neck edge of the shirt. Okay, we have our shoulder seam allowances pressed flat. We have our neckband folded and pressed flat. Now we're going to attach the neckband to the neck line. So I have turned the shirt wrong side out, and I'm going to take the neckband and we're going to find the center front and the sides. So here we have the center back where we inserted the seam. We're going to fold the band in half, and then the other end is our center front. So I'm going to go ahead and just place a little snip right along the edge, not too far in, very tiny, so that we have our center front and our center back. Now I'm going to take the center front and center back and line them up, and then we will get our sides for matching up the side seam of the band to the shoulder seam. Just go in a little bit on the side, and we're going to go in on the opposite side and do the same thing. Okay, then on the shirt we have our two shoulder seams. We're going to take those and match them up, and we're going to do the same thing to find the center front and the center back. So line up your shoulder seam and go in, and there is your center back. So we're just going to put a tiny snip there, and then you're going to do the same thing for the front. Now, open out your shirt, and we're going to take the neckband, and starting with the back, the center back, we're going to take the center back seam of the neckline and line it up with the center back notch that we clipped into the shirt. And then you can go ahead and start pinning. Then we're going to go to the front. So the center front of the neckband, pin it to the center front of the shirt. Moving to the sides, we're going to do the same thing. The notch on one side, we're going to pin it to the shoulder seam. And then the notch on the other side of the neckband, we're going to pin to the other shoulder seam. Now, as we start to sew this together, you will notice, looking at this right now, that the band is shorter than the t-shirt, the neckline of the t-shirt. It's supposed to be that way because we need to stretch the band so that it fits into the shirt. You don't want your neckband the same length as the shirt because you'll get the gaping when you put the shirt on, and that's the worst look. You don't want your shirt gaping out from your neck. So when you start to sew, you're going to stretch the neckline as you sew. Don't stretch the shirt, just the neckline. All right, starting at the center back, as we sew, remember we're going to stretch the neckband. I think earlier I said stretch the neckline. No, we're stretching the neckband to fit the neckline. So let's go ahead and place that under, and I'm going to move the pin. I'm going to lift my presser foot this time and place the fabric under, making sure that everything is lying flat. Close that down. And this time we're sewing a 3/8 inch seam allowance. So find your 3/8 inch seam allowance before you start to sew this, the same way I showed you how to find your 5/8 inch seam allowance. And start sewing. And I'm going to pull the neckband until it's even with the length of the neckline. Removing the pins as you go along and continuing to stretch the neckband. Remember, when you get to the shoulder seams, make sure that the seam allowance is folded to the back. So if you feel that it has flipped over to the front, as mine has done, make sure that your needles are down in the fabric. Lift your presser foot and fold that back over. You can use a pointer or anything flat to push it back over to the other side. And then put your presser foot back down and continue sewing. If you ever find that your fabric starts to puddle up in this area, you can just pull it down so that it continue to fall down into the tray. And as you come to the beginning or the end, the beginning of where you started to stitch, you're just going to run right over it and line it up. So what I did was I just continued stitching and sewed right over the beginning stitches. And then we're going to take the tail end and we're going to weave it into the thread here, and I'll show you how to do that now. You can use a yarn needle or a large needle with a large eye, which is what I'm going to use. I don't have a yarn needle near me right now, so I'm just going to use this needle with the larger eye. And what you're going to do is just pull the thread straight, and then go ahead and clip off the longer threads here. And then we're going to thread this through the eye of the needle. Okay. And then I'm going to turn my shirt over to the back, and I'm going to feed this through the loopers on the back. So I'm just going to feed it through the back, under the looper threads, just about maybe an inch, and then I'm going to pull it through. Then I'm going to go ahead and clip that off. And that's how I hide my thread tails. Okay, so we have our neckband stitched on. The next thing we're going to do is go to the pressing station again, and you're going to press the neckband away from the shirt, and you're going to press the seam allowance down towards the shirt. So you're going to just open it out flat like this and press it down from the wrong side, and then you can turn it over to the right side and press it from the front. Just press it flat. There is the pressed neckline. Now we're going to insert the sleeves using the flat lay method. Okay, so we're going to open out the shirt. We have our shoulder seam here. This is the back of the shirt. This is the front of the shirt. So we're going to grab our sleeves, and we need to place the sleeve onto the arm side of the shirt with the back facing the back and the front facing the front. It's very important that you pay attention to that. On your sleeves, you should have marked 2 notches on one side and a single notch on the other side. The single notch goes toward the front of your shirt, and the double notch goes toward the back. So if I turn this over with the right sides facing, my double notch is over here toward the front. So this is the wrong sleeve. So I want to grab the other sleeve where the double notch is facing the back of the shirt. So we're going to take the center of the sleeve, which you should have marked, and place that right at the edge of the shoulder seam and pin. Then we're going to take the double notch and match it to the notch on the back of the shirt and match up the raw edges. And then there is a marking here on the sleeve, and you should have a marking on your shirt. We're going to match those up. It's very important that you transfer all of your markings onto your fabric pieces because it helps to line things up when you get ready to sew. Going over to the front, we're going to do the same thing. Match up the ends, the dots that we've transferred, and the notches. I'm matching the dots again. Okay, now to ease this in, rather than using the method that's in the pattern instructions, which is to sew in gathering stitches and pull the stitches together, we're going to press the sleeve cap, the middle part, right there, and we're going to ease this in with pins. This is the method that I like to use. Then we're going to pull that until it's flat and pin it. And as we sew, we're going to stretch that a little bit so that it fits in. And I'm going to push that right down to the middle. And as we sew, we can stretch it a little bit to fit in. Again, here's the sleeve cap and here's the shirt. I'm going to take the middle of that sleeve cap and press it down to the middle portion of that shirt, the space that we have. Same thing. And then when we sew, we'll pull it to flatten it out and make it even. So there's the sleeve cap, there's the shirt. I'm going to press it down in the middle. And when we sew, we will flatten it out. And you're going to do that all the way around the sleeve. Now we're going to go ahead and sew the seam, and make sure that you remove your pins as you sew. And as you go around the curves, you want to manipulate your fabric with your left and right hand by turning the fabric either left or right on the curve. So let's begin. And as you get to the areas where the sleeve is shorter than the sleeve cap, go ahead and stretch to even it out. And just take your time. There's no rush. You want to make sure that both layers of fabric are flat as you're going around the curves. You want to make sure you're not sewing in any puckers. So just take your time. And our sleeve has been sewn in. And once we turn it over, there you have it on the front, and there's the back. And then we will go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. And after that, we're going to come back. Oh, after you sew in the other sleeve, go ahead to your pressing station, and you want to press your sleeve down toward the sleeve. And then we'll come back here and sew the side seams. Okay, you should have pressed your sleeve seam toward the sleeve on both sleeves. Now we're going to sew the front to the back at the side seams. So go ahead and pin both pieces of fabric together, and we're going to start at the bottom hem of the shirt and sew up to the end of the sleeve with a 5/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, and we have sewn in our side seam. You can go ahead and weave in your thread tails, and next we're going to sew in the hems. Okay, to hem our t-shirt, we're going to need a hemmer foot, and the Vibrant does not come with that foot. However, I'm very excited to introduce you guys to the Baby Lock Serger 6-foot kit, and it includes a hemmer foot. So it comes in this nice little case, and inside we get a little pamphlet that tells you all about the 6 different feet that come with the machine. So you can take a look and read about the feet to see what they are for, how you can use them. And this is the inside of the case and all of the feet. We have the blind hem feet. We get 2 of them, 0.5 millimeter, which is the one that we will be using today, and the 1 millimeter blind hem feet. We get the elastic foot, which is this one, and of course you use that to attach elastic to your projects. We get a ruffling foot, and you can use that to put ruffles into your skirts or whatever garment you need to add ruffles, flounces, and that type of thing to gather your fabric. We get the beading foot, which is this here. If you want to add beads to your projects, that's awesome. And the cording foot for adding cords and piping, those types of finishes to your projects. So this is very helpful. It's an optional accessory kit that you can purchase through your local Baby Lock dealer. And there is a link in the description box below for you to go onto the Baby Lock website to find a dealer if you don't have one close to you. This is the 0.5 millimeter hemming foot that we're going to use, but before attaching this, you need to set up your machine for 2-thread serging, and remember to attach your converter to the upper looper. If you don't know how to do that, then go and watch the video that I created in this series, which was the last one, how to thread your machine, and follow the instructions for 2-thread serging, how to thread your machine for that. And then come back here, and to change out the foot, you're just going to press the little black button in the back and it falls down. We're going to move that out. Then we're going to take the new foot and slide it in, and there is a groove. There is a metal pin here and a groove in the bottom of the foot holder, and we're going to push down until we hit that, and then lift, and if it's attached, it'll lift up. Sometimes you have to play around with it to get it to attach. Okay, so you just place the foot under the presser foot holder and press down until it snaps into place, and then you're ready. Okay, once we have folded or pressed up the hem for the t-shirt, we're going to go ahead and sew in the hem. Now I'm using a sample. Unfortunately, I recorded myself sewing the hem into the bottom of the t-shirt, and the camera just shut down on me before I was able to finish, so I have to show you guys on a sample. So I've just sewn this together, serged the seam together to simulate the bottom of a t-shirt. So it's the same process, just I'm doing it on a scrap. So after you have sewn in or pressed up your hem, making sure that you've pressed it up evenly all the way around, you're going to take the hem and you're going to flip it up. And after you've done that, here's what you have. Let's flip that up. We have the fold here, and we have an extension of fabric that's sticking out from the fold. So what you want to do is you want to pin all the way around the hem, making sure that the measurement from the fold to the edge of that extension is even. So mine here measures about 3/8 of an inch. So I'm going to use that measurement all the way around as I pin the fold. It's really important that you have an even distance so that your hem will be even all the way around. Okay, so just turn that up all the way around, and once you start pinning, you'll most likely get an eye for the distance that you need, and you won't have to use your seam gauge. If you do, it's okay, but if you feel that you're comfortable enough that you're eyeing it, it's fine. Now when you get here to where we have all this bulk, we're sewing through 2, 4, 6 layers of fabric on the side seams of your t-shirt. So be careful that you're pinning carefully. I'm going to pin perpendicular just to hold that in place. And then continue around. Until you reach the other end or where you started. And there we have it. So what we're going to do is make sure you have raised your presser foot and lift your needles to the highest position by turning the hand wheel towards you. What we're going to do is we're going to place the extension of fabric under the metal guide here. So it's going to go under, and then the fold of fabric is going to go in between the silver metal of the presser foot and the black metal guide. So let's take it and slide the extension under, and then the fabric fold above that black metal piece. And when we start sewing, we're going to sew in at an angle until we can straighten this out. So I'm going to remove a pin, lower the presser foot, and then begin sewing. Okay, with the needle down in the fabric, lift your presser foot, and I'm going to turn that to straighten it out, and I'm going to push the fold down to where this metal part is extending above it. Okay, and then we're going to continue. Lower the presser foot. Now, you probably can't see it from where you are, but there are, right where the needle is, you can see the fold where the left needle is hitting the fold of fabric. So what's happening is, as we're sewing, the needle will be hitting the edge of this fold to sew in the hem. And as we're sewing, we want to make sure that we're holding the fabric over to the right so that it's hitting against the metal guide so that the needle will hit the fold. Let's continue. Now, when we reach this bulky area, we're going to go slowly. And when I was practicing this hem, I did run into trouble with all of the bulk not feeding through the hemmer smoothly. So I'm going to show you what I did to help guide it through. Let's sew up to the edge. Okay, I'm going to put the needle down into the fabric. I'm going to lift the presser foot, and I'm going to use my pointer. You can use anything flat, and I'm going to press down to push it, the bulkiness through, all of those layers through just a little bit. Lower the presser foot, and I'm going to hold down while I guide this through using my pointer to help. Okay, and again, I'm going to put the needle down into the fabric and lift the presser foot. I'm going to push it through a little bit. I'm just trying to help guide it through. And continue sewing. Okay, now that this is all through this part, we're going to keep an eye on the fold to make sure that we're catching the fabric. I'm going to lift it up, and yes, I'm catching the edge of the fabric. I'm going to continue sewing. And I am past the hump. The needle has passed that hump. So I'm going to turn to make sure the needle is hitting the fold, and it did not hit the fold on that one. So I'm going to raise the needle again. I'm going to hold onto the fabric here, lift my presser foot, and push it over a little bit. And then I'm going to lower the presser foot, lower the needle, and it's hitting the fabric. This is just what I found as I was practicing. So that's why I always suggest practicing your stitches before you actually do them, so that you can figure out what you need to do to help when you hit trouble spots. Now, we have come to where we started sewing. but we can't go any further because the guide is under the fold. So what I'm going to do is move the fabric over the fold and place it under the guide. And as I continue sewing, I'm going to make sure that this top edge of the guide is even with the fold on my, the fold on the fabric, so that when I continue, it will line up, and I'm going to sew overlap some of the stitches. Okay, I have overlapped. I'm going to raise the needle, raise the presser foot, and I'm going to turn it out and sew off. Okay, so we're going to turn it right side out. And this is what we have. And you can see that little tiny stitches. I've used the same color thread so you can't see it as well, which is what you want. But you will notice that there are these little white specks. That's because the backing on this fabric is white. And as the needles pierced the fabric, that white background is peeking through, and it's just because of the type of fabric that I'm using. If you're using a fabric that's the same color all the way through, then you won't encounter this issue. This is not a problem for me at all. So what we're going to do next is we're going to press this flat. Go to your pressing station and give it a nice flat press. You're going to do this on the bottom hem of your t-shirt and both sleeves. Then we will be done. Well, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have enjoyed this video. If so, please hit the like button. Now for the good news. I'm going to tell you how you can enter for a chance to win your very own Vibrant Serger. First of all, you must be a U.S. resident, 18 years or older. You must be subscribed here to my YouTube channel and my blog, AnitaByDesign.com. You're going to click on the link in the description box below that says entry form, and that will take you over to my blog where you can sign up for a chance to win. The drawing is open until next Friday, March 8th, 2019 at 12 a.m. and a winner will be chosen later that day. Okay, I'm going to wish you guys lots of good luck and thank you so much. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.